Well, hey there, folks. My name is Dr. Mark Grimes, and it's my distinct privilege and pleasure to welcome you to Human Resources Staffing as part of Georgia Southwestern State University School of Business's Summer 2018 course program list. HR Staffing is one of my favorite classes. It's a lot of practical, easy to understand, easy to implement tools that will help you in your future careers. One of the great things about HR staffing is that it doesn't really matter whether you're an HR person or you're in the management, because you're going to be interviewing people. From the HR perspective, you're either going to be doing the initial interviews to weed the talent down to pass on to managers to make decisions, or you're going to be a manager who's having to make that final decision. And knowing how to interview people is going to make your job so much better. Having the right people who are in the right positions will make your job as a manager so much more pleasant. So getting the right people is important. What we're going to do in this class, in a shortened summer semester, it's going to be packed, but there's a lot of great activities, each one of which will give you another notch on your tool belt to be the HR professional or the manager that your potential employers want to be able to hire. What we're going to do is start out by thinking about a job. I've got a list of 15 entry-level jobs that a college sophomore could do. You're going to pick one of those jobs, and you're going to think about where you might go to do recruiting. As we'll talk about in the class, these days you can't hope that people are going to come to you looking for a job. In order to be successful, you've got to go to where they are, and you've got to find them. So when we have a job, whether it's a warehouse clerk person, or it's a salesperson, or it's a cashier, or it's an administrative assistant, whoever it is, we have an idea of where we can find people that can fill those roles, and we go to them and try to convince them to come interview with us. So the first thing that we'll do after we settle on what our jobs are is to think about how we would recruit for that job, where we would go, what resource we would use to recruit for that job. In order to do that, we're doing this a little bit backwards, but in order to get it to flow right for the semester, we'll do that first. But after we do that, normally what we're going to do, or in this class what we're going to do, is to create a job description. That's a very formal statement of what this position will do on a regular basis. All of the activities that this position is responsible for. How many times do we hear in the real working world, I didn't know that was my responsibility, or that's not in my job description? The problem we typically have in situations like that is that we don't have a very good job description to start with. So we're going to get practice writing a job description for whatever job you picked to start this semester. You're going to research and you're going to write a job description that has all of the essential capability, the essential activities that that person will do. It'll also define the environment in which this person will do that. And then it'll have some information about what this candidate needs to have to be successful in that job, the skills, the knowledge, and the abilities. You'll create that job description. Once we've got a good job description, what we're going to do is think about how we would go about interviewing for that position. And we're going to create a list of questions that we would ask in an interview. Typically, those questions are going to be very open-ended, not yes-no kinds of things, but tell me about a time when you did this. Or tell me how you think you would handle this if the situation ever arose. Very open-ended, talking-oriented questions. The objective in an interview is for you to talk a little bit and to get the candidate to talk a lot. And depending on the kinds of questions you ask, that's either very difficult or becomes very easy. So you're going to create a list of questions that you could use in an interview to find out if your candidate has the knowledge, skills, and abilities to do the job, and if your candidate is capable of doing the functions of the job. Along with those questions, you're also going to create for me what I call a hiring matrix. Very simply, what that means is some sort of a spreadsheet or a Word document that has items that you can score from 1 to 5, yes, no, values, quantities, things like that. You're going to have a series of things that you're looking for in that interview. And it might include things like how they look, what kind of eye contact they make, how much they smile, how professional they are, certainly the answers to the questions that you've asked. How well did they answer that question? How good of an example did they give? How did their resume look? How did their cover letter look? All those kinds of things. Anything that you think is important in making a decision. When you've got 4 candidates side by side, which one am I going to hire? We can't really rely on our gut feelings, because sometimes our gut feelings get us into trouble because they open us up to discrimination charges. The more mathematical we can make this, here's the formula that I used, here's how each person did on that formula, this person came out with a higher score, they meet more of the conditions that are important, therefore they're the ones that we ought to hire. That hiring matrix may not be something you use in real life, but it's a good practice for this to help us to make sure we get the right candidate. The last thing that we're going to do after we've come up with all of the questions and the matrix that we're going to use to score them is to actually engage in a series of interviews. Who's going to be interviewing for our jobs? We've got a great partnership already established with the business communications students in the GSW School of Business. They're learning how to write cover letters and resumes. Many of them have never done an interview before. You've never conducted an interview before in most cases, so it's a great partnership. They're going to pick one of your jobs. They're going to create a cover letter and a resume targeting your job. They're going to make an appointment with you to interview via video conferencing. And then at the appointed date and time, y'all are going to both get on this video conference. You're going to ask all of your questions. They're going to answer all your questions. And after you've done 3 or 4 interviews during the course of a week, you're going to do some analysis and you're going to select one of those business communication students to make a job offer to. That's the point of this semester. How do we get to the point where we can make a job offer believing that the candidate we're offering to is the right one for the job? If you can do all of that in a shortened summer semester, I think you're going to walk out of this semester feeling like you have made a major, major step towards being the qualified human resources representative or management candidate that our employers in this area are looking for. I'm looking forward to working with you this semester and to see how you grow in the process of selecting candidates for your jobs.